Hello, my name is Bethany Welgoss, and on behalf of my co-author, Yoon, and myself, I'm happy to share with you our paper, It's Ugly, That's Why It Works Beautifully, an exploratory study using design strategies to violate aesthetic principles as means to influence usage behaviors. So first, take a moment to consider the rotated square. Perhaps it draws your attention, or makes you annoyed or uncomfortable, or maybe you wish you could correct it. But regardless of your response, the square likely violated your aesthetic expectations based on the precedent set by the other squares in this image. Aesthetic experiences are all around us, including our everyday product interactions, but how might we behave differently with our products if our aesthetic expectations are violated? In this paper, we explore how the violation of aesthetic experiences can be deliberately facilitated, and the beneficial effects in human design relationships. So what is an aesthetic experience? Traditionally, aesthetics are considered in relation to beauty, but an emerging literature suggests that aesthetic experiences extend beyond physical attributes to those of function, experience, or perception. So consider the aesthetic experiences associated with using a new smartphone. You might be drawn to aspects of the phone's appearance, but more significantly, you might be drawn to the pleasing tactile weight, the smooth surface, the intuitive interface, and the device's perceived ability to meet your needs. So, an aesthetic judgment not only relates to an object's appearance, but also relates to perception of the object's purpose, meaning an aesthetic judgment is also made if an object is appreciated based on how it functions. So this paper looks to contribute by proposing a link between aesthetics and behavior change through a design approach we are calling aesthetic violation. Aesthetic violation occurs when the elements of a design purposely deviate from the aesthetic expectations of the user in a way that encourages a behavioral response. So in this way, the intended behavioral response serves as a key determinant in the design's aesthetic choices. Aesthetic violation is something that designers have used somewhat intuitively and anecdotally. Some examples include a line of conceptual products designed by Karen Ernberger and Love Brahms in conjunction with the Interactive Institute, which includes a puzzle switch on the left, which is a light switch that uses graphic misalignment to encourage users to turn off the lights, and the aware handle on the right, which is a radiator handle that presents users with an uncomfortable tactile experience when turning up the heat, but a comfortable experience when turning down the heat. So despite this anecdotal usage, to our knowledge, aesthetic violation has never been systematized nor empirically analyzed for its effectiveness. Therefore, this paper aimed to formulate design strategies to help designers systematically use aesthetic violation. The theoretical foundation of this research draws on two theories, the first being processing fluency and the second being the unified model of aesthetics. So processing fluency suggests that the more fluently a perceiver can process an object, the more positive the aesthetic response. The unified model of aesthetics suggests that positive aesthetic experiences stem from the need to balance safety and accomplishment, and our highest aesthetic experiences occur when we interact with products that strike a balance between these desires. And this model is divided into three categories of dichotomy: perceptual, cognitive, and social. So the present research builds on these frameworks in regard to what an aesthetic violation can be, so functioning under the assumption that a more easily processed object is more aesthetically pleasing, aesthetic violation proposes that when confronted with an object that is difficult to process, a user may be inclined to escape, minimize, or counteract this experience. Therefore, it may be possible to induce a behavior by decreasing the processing fluency of the user. In regard to the unified model of aesthetics, this disruption may apply within the three dichotomies, for creating an imbalance or a violation in these dichotomies could potentially inspire a behavior. So with this foundation in mind, we decided to conduct a set of generative workshops with designers to begin exploring aesthetic violation in the design process. The generative workshops combined both discussions and brainstorming. They were conducted in small groups and investigated existing examples of aesthetic violation and also asked participants to generate their own ideas. After the sessions, a thematic analysis was conducted and 6 design strategies were ultimately formulated. The strategies were divided into 3 categories: violation for interaction, utilizing feedback indicators, and utilizing convenience. So we have a few examples from the sessions. On the left is a participant idea that would fall into the category utilizing feedback indicators. It depicts an oven that highlights the ratio of energy used compared to the amount of food heated inside. So the window of the oven shows check marks on areas that are actively heating food and X's on areas that are being heated for no purpose. So the intention is to provide a visual showing this ratio of energy use and to encourage users to use appliances that are in proportion to their energy needs. On the right is an image of a fake runner rug that is tiled outside a doorway, and this image was highlighted by a participant because of the way the violation both grabbed his attention and then evoked feelings of curiosity and humor. He described it initially as discomforting because of his desire to go over to the runner rug and kick it back into place, but then he described his emotional transition to feelings of curiosity and humor, which then made him more interested in the building itself and in the violation as an experience. So this example would fall into the category of violation for interaction. After strategy development, a second set of refinement workshops were conducted, also with designers, and these workshops were formatted similarly to the first set but with more structured brainstorming. Afterwards, a thematic analysis was conducted, resulting in 6 finalized strategies. The finalized strategies fall into 3 categories: user interaction, feedback indicators, and perceived convenience. The first strategy, aesthetic chaos, encourages designers to create a state of disarray but provide the opportunity for the user to restore order. So an example would be the puzzle switch mentioned earlier in this presentation. Chaos in this case is presented in terms of graphic misalignment, but the user is able to restore order by realigning the graphic and also turning the light off in the process. The second strategy encourages designers to aesthetically violate an object in an unexpected way, such that the violation draws user attention and creates a desire to better understand the violation. So an example of this strategy would be the tiled runner rug that we previously discussed. The third strategy, negative violations for necessary behaviors, encourages the use of unpleasant or jarring violations in situations where it is crucial for users to counteract the violation. So a fire alarm is a common example of this strategy. The fourth strategy, positive violations to reward behaviors, uses violations as a means of positive reinforcement. So for example, the thermostat below emits a positive green signal when it is set at an efficient temperature. The fifth strategy, aesthetic simplification, encourages designers to streamline the aesthetic experience and reduce visual clutter by automatically selecting the most favorable option for the user based on the desired behavior. So an example of this might be a car that starts in a gas-efficient mode with no notification sign unless the driver manually turns off this feature. The sixth strategy, prime positioning, encourages the positioning of the most favorable option to be the most noticeable and easiest to execute. So this is often done in stores with point-of-purchase displays located near the front door, but another example might be a refrigerator where the produce bins are located front and center, and then storage for less healthy foods might be located up high or in the back or in less accessible locations. So after strategy refinement, it was clear that subjectivity was a key consideration of aesthetic violation. A participant noted that what might annoy them might not have the same effect on someone else. Therefore, understanding the implications of a violation's subjectivity will be crucial for successful implementation. Similarly, we must also consider the cultural relevance of any set of aesthetic design strategies because aesthetic experiences will differ across cultures. So an in-depth understanding of context and user concerns such as goals, values, and aspirations may better equip designers to pick violations that are appropriate and successful. Also, the workshops indicated that rarely strategies were used in isolation. So for use, we are not recommending that the designers aspire to only use one strategy, but perhaps use one as a starting point to begin generating ideas. Throughout the workshops, it appeared that participants struggled more with violations they characterized negatively because designers are typically trained to create positive user experiences. Therefore, it may be beneficial to frame aesthetic violation in a broader context. So if we consider that an aesthetic judgment can be formed based on the efficiency of a design or how well the object performs its function, even a negative violation can result in a positive user experience if the violation improves the overall efficiency or functionality of the design. However, ethical considerations must also be made when introducing discomfort or other experiences that may hinder inclusive design. So similar to the problem of subjectivity, ethical considerations also need to highlight an empathetic and participatory design approach when using aesthetic violation in order to safeguard users. So due to the exploratory nature of these studies, there are limitations to be considered. First, the strategies are presented in the early stages of development, and they may not be a fully comprehensive list. And these strategies were developed from the perspectives of designers rather than users, so ultimately the next step towards validation must include non-designers as participants. So future research should continue to empirically test these strategies with a larger group of participants in order to validate their effectiveness and propose improvements as necessary. Also, due to the subjective nature of these violations, future research is also needed to better establish boundaries and guidelines for applying these violations, especially across cultures. So overall, this paper explores aesthetic violation as a means of inciting usage behaviors through design. And the strategies resulting from this research can serve as guidelines for designers to use aesthetic violation both effectively and systematically within their design processes. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure to share this research with you.